ANMATalks is an initiative for sharing knowledge between students, staff and management of the Nordic and Baltic academies for higher music education and anyone else interested. Welcome to this 13th edition, ANMATalks opening new doors to learning.
So, Nana, you are the rector at Tbilisi Conservatoire in Georgia, and I'm really happy to get to talk to you today about this very exciting topic. Been looking forward to it very much. And
morning. I'm very happy to be part of this, and thank you for having me here. And I'm very happy to see my colleagues with whom I was starting actually the Erasmus and international cooperation, because my background was international relationships. So I'm very happy. So warmest greetings from Tbilisi to all of you from Nordic and Baltic countries.
Thank you so much. And this is the perfect starting point, because what we're going to start from is actually your story with how did these exchanges become possible, and you played a huge part in that. So tell us what happened, why was it necessary, and how did this possibility actually become a possibility?
Actually, in 2005, we joined the Bologna process, Georgia, and this international credit transfer system came into force. So we tried to find partners and also to open up the institution towards the global world. But before I start talking about the institutional perspectives, I think that every institution has perspective if the individuals working there have this perspective. So for us, on the starting stage, it was very important to create an environment where we were able to share our experience, to share ideas and show the way how we deal with the different challenges. And the international exchange from our side was seen as a possibility that bring people together. And it's not only about sharing the how we teach our students or sharing, but also learning how to find a way to communicate better and how to become more flexible and percept what's coming from different people. And that was also a possibility for us to reach out and act in different cultural environments. And I would say that it developed and built capacity through cooperation. And that was very important to have this third eye, because sometimes you are aware of your strengths, you know maybe your weaknesses, but you rediscover your strengths and weaknesses from another perspective and through different light. And that was very important for us, because for 70 or 80 years in the 20th century, Tbilisi State Conservatoire was closed in the borders of the Soviet Union. So when in 90s we got our independence, for us it was a striving aim to get back home, and our home is Europe, and to be part of Europe, because we are not adopting European values, we are bearers of the European values. And to be part of this, we have to find this common communication ground and common language. And we also were thinking not only on personal level, but also thinking that internationalization is a tool for building capacity individually, but also to benefit on an institutional level. And on institutional level, there are different, approaches. This study learning, research, teaching methodology, also learning environment. And I would emphasize that, for instance, without Norwegian help, we would never be able to build a technology studio, music technology studio, and build a library. They actually helped us to renovate our study learning environment. Also, without, for instance, Oslo Music Academy and Greek Music Academy, it was possible to revise doctoral studies. With the help of Sibelius Music Academy, we were able to revise curriculum and have this critical friends council who helped us to prepare for the accreditation, and hopefully now we will be able also to prepare our curriculum for the international accreditation. With Baltic countries, we were able to revise certain curriculums, for instance, with Lithuania, our music, history and theoretical subjects. So very important little details, but these little details together are forming the institutional portfolio and also our capacity and strengthening our capacity inside internally and also externally.
Very, very important points, definitely, both with the internationalization as a tool and a tool that can be used on many, many levels at once, about the small things becoming part of the culture and becoming bearers of both values, but also of new possibilities, both for the institution, but of course, as we will come back to later, also on the individual level very much. So I'm curious to know, coming back to these, so to say, first steps of reaching out or engaging with the Nordic countries. How did that happen? And what were the steps?
First, it happened with Norway. And actually it happened through our student who went for regular studies there. And I was first in touch with the international office at Oslo Music Academy. And there was fantastic person, Knut Mire, with whom I built this cooperation. And then it happened that through these cooperations, through attending several very important Nordic meetings, including the quality assurance meetings, we were able to build cooperation with other countries. With Baltic countries, we already had this cooperation. And there was also very important delegation from Sweden to Georgia under SIDA. And among them, there was also, at that time, Opera College University, representatives from that institution, and Christopher Fredriksson, with whom we tried to build consortium, Georgia and Nordic countries, and participants were Sibelius, Denmark, Keld, and Stockholm. And we tried to apply for the project, former Tempus project, that was about entrepreneurship, and to build bachelor and bachelor program at the Tbilisi State Conservatoire about the entrepreneurship. The project wasn't funded, but the work together on this huge and very challenging project brought us very good cooperation possibilities, because that was not funded, but we decided to go towards establishing the cooperation within the Erasmus ICM. So the cooperation started with all these institutions. And a very important thing was that we were very honest in the starting point of these relationships. And we were actually saying that we need to strengthen our weaknesses. So we know what our weaknesses are, and we need your capacity and build this capacity through your expertise. And that was heard. And then that was the cooperation between equals. That's very important, that we were not only takers and you were not only givers, but also that was cooperation between equals. And that's very important, because you can't build friendship without equity.
Well, that is a really important point for sure. And what I'm also hearing, and as most of you will know by now, the audience in ANMAtalks is both students, teaching staff, but also managers and anyone else who might be interested. So what I'm saying now is also with this perspective that for some people, I would guess that it would be a surprise that collaborations like these actually start from individual people meeting each other and coming up with something to do together. I could imagine that there would be, at least for some groups, an idea that you would sit down very formally and say, now we would like to collaborate with you. We make an agreement about that. But this is not what I'm hearing you say. It's actually more, you learn to know each other by doing something together. be it in
Absolutely,
projects
and
or...
that has an impact on a working culture on institutional level.
Yes.
And that's very important, because also it's important to keep the hierarchy, especially if it's in your, tradition, but it's also very important to build this horizontal working culture where all different segments of the society, of the institution are involved, and they feel this ownership. But I would also emphasize one very important thing, what we got from this Erasmus cooperation, that we, Georgian side, discovered that within education, there is not only, let's say, European standard education, musical education, but also much more bigger world, and that was Glomos. And that was something where also Nordic countries involved us. And then we got so inspired with this idea that in 1917, we organized Glomos camp in Batumi at the Black Sea in Georgia. That's also very important to understand, that maybe you are part of certain region, Europe, let's say, but you are also part of a bigger world, and your responsibility as an artist, as an educator, as a teacher, is also to give possibility to your staff, to your teachers, to your students, to discover, because learning process is to a greater extent about discovery. You have to discover a lot of things, you have to try a lot of things, and then you decide which path to take. And then institutions' ability and capacities to just help you to carry on with your endeavors and with your inspirations and with your ideas and passion.
For sure. And just if there are someone amongst us who don't know what Glomos is, can you say a bit about that?
Glomos is about global dialogue between different cultures through the world. There are Africans, Australians, Americans, Europeans, Asia, and Glomos brings them together, and with their authentic culture, with their traditional culture, and also with this culture to show how this culture might be developed from different perspectives. And this is absolutely not keeping those cultures within the cultural groups, but sharing it and enabling them to be involved within this culture. And that's inspiring experience, also in terms of cultural background, because you see that the same things or absolutely different things are done by different cultural groups. And even if you don't speak that universal musical language, you are still able to understand what they are, what the message they are bearing and carrying you out.
And coming a bit back to the part about being equal partners and having the trust and the understanding, or maybe also the curiosity to find out what that means. Can I ask you, this might be a tricky question, but how do you build that? Where does that equality come from? What does it take?
Camilla, I'm not sure that we have already built that, because I see this as a process, as an ongoing process. And for me personally, because there is no one receipt for this, for me personally, if you want to build something or start to build something and to take advantage of the process, you have to come out from your comfort zone. Because nothing, nothing good is raised in the comfort zone. So if you are able to be open to the challenges, to difficult conversations, to difficult processes, if you have understanding of what amount of time you need for that, then it's easy. And I'm always saying that it's easy if you have will to go through this challenging process. And it was not, of course, easy for Tbilisi State Conservatoire, because we are aware of our traditions, of our strengths. We have merited musicians there who have their names, and it's not easy to talk to them and to say that maybe not to change, but maybe you have wished to see this process, what you are doing, from another perspective, just try it, not change. You still can preserve your methodology or your views, but just see it, just listen to it. And it was not a easy process, and it's not easy process even now, because we are going through very, very challenging processes now at the institution internally.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not, you know, I think you have again a very important point in the, we shouldn't think that just because something is happening, everything is established. And as you say, and may never be fully, because what is that point also? And I think reflecting a bit about the title of today, Opening New Doors to Learning, a question that I want to ask you, which may be a bit on the meta level somehow, I'll try to make myself clear, is you can say, what are the doors? If you need to open them, how do you see them? Where are the doors and how do they open? Do you get my question?
Yes, absolutely. I see it through a very complex picture where we have advantages and disadvantages as well, where we have problems, but I don't believe that there are any problems that we can't solve, because every wall has a door, as Chinese are saying. You still have to go through the wall once again and find that door. I think that for Tbilisi State Conservatoire, and I'm talking it from our perspective, what we need now, we are on a level where we prove that we are trustable partners and we are reliable partners, where we are proving that we are going through very challenging processes, but we are still keeping going there. And what we need now is to change this discourse, but not our discourse, but our partners' discourse, because we need to be involved in so-called BIP. This is a blended intensive programs. This is a very huge, big opportunity for Tbilisi State Conservatoire. I know that these programs are for program countries. We are not program country, we are partner country. But still, we can be part of this program as an associate member.
Yeah.
This is first thing, what we need now. And another thing is we need to be involved in cooperation projects. This is former strategic partnership projects. Those projects are also under Erasmus and they are only for program countries, but I want to remind my friends from Nordic countries and also Baltic countries that we can be involved there as an associate partner. Why do we need this? We need this because we are ready for having joint programs. We are ready to speak the same language, musical language, same curriculum, and we can prove it in a few months when we get the international accreditation. So this is another step for my institution. That's not easy step, that's a challenging step, but this is the way that we choose and we are striving to go through.
And how, when you go into these BIP projects, again, just to make sure that everyone can follow this. So what is the difference? Can you say a bit more about that, on being what you've done until now and what you want to do?
BIP projects are for program countries. Program countries are those countries who are members of the European Union. Georgia is not member of the European Union, but we are associated member of the European Union, and we applied for the status for European Union. So I hope that by the end of this year, in December, we will be given the status, candidate status, as a country who is ready to join the European Union. So we are now partner country, and partner country has right and possibility to be an associative member of these projects. This is very important for us because this is not additional door. This is the door that belongs to us, and this is the door that we need now to update our capacity to a new level, and we deserve that. Very simple.
So you can say on a practical level, so for what you have now is projects, committed projects with other institutions.
Now we have capacity building projects, for instance, in research management, in
Yeah.
Now we have all type of mobilities and plenty of mobilities because we have cooperation with many institutions in Europe. Actually, I don't have country where we don't have cooperation. So this is ICM, but we need now to work on joint curriculums.
Yeah.
We need help to build our curriculums on a common ground with our European friends.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you so much. It's just good to, you know, really get it detailed enough so that we know.
Because I think that it's not only about how you build curriculum, but it's also about how this process brings you to the result of already built curriculum. You follow me what I mean? That's very important. Because that's important, I think, not only for us. I think that this cooperation is having mutual benefit also for you, because within cooperation and within this exchange of also working culture and mindsets, it also enriches different people. That's valuable, because it's not only about concrete results, but about mindset. And this mindset, I can say on the example of my institution, it takes time and it's a process thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that applies to you as well, of course, as the Nordic countries.
Absolutely.
Because we all see the world through a lens, right? And just becoming aware of what that lens is, even though that in itself is very, very difficult to do. And we will probably fail, all of us, to some extent, always.
Yeah.
But definitely becoming more and more aware of this also gives opportunities to stay in the bleak metaphor, more doors to open, doors that we might even not know existed in the first place. And that applies to everyone for sure. So I was thinking this leads very well into my next question, actually. How do you see in this transition that all partners in this are doing, not only you, but also the other countries that you're interacting with? What is the role of teaching staff and students in this movement? Can you say a bit about that?
They are primary.
Yeah, how?
They have the acting role there, because that's why I'm saying that we have to update ourselves on a different, on an upper level, because it's not the case for the administration. Internationalization as a tool for staff, teaching staff and students, and administration is serving this. Administration is able, what I'm doing now, this is talking to create a possibility and to look at this through different lenses. But what I'm talking, this is about teachers and students. Primary target group, they have to make this job. Administration is not able to make this. Administration can build this possibility as a pool and then throw students and staff there.
And how do you throw them there then?
Through working groups and through identifying where we want to have, for instance, the cooperation projects or blended intensive programs. Why we need there? Do we have enough resources, human resources for that? Which country we want to make this? Are those countries also willing to? I mean, this is a working process. When I'm saying that we are willing to be part as an associative member in this, it means that we have to start talking about it. No one can just start tomorrow this project with us, but we have to start talking about it and prepare the ground, and it takes time, and time is flying, and I don't want to spend this time in vain.
No, that makes perfect sense. So, and you should always be careful with this, but I am going to try anyway to boil this down, that something like this topic that might seem on the outside very institutional in nature is actually very, very much about people. Actually, it's primarily about people meeting other people and taking something back and going as a, you know, both back, but also into context. Do you know what I'm trying to do here?
We can start from little. We can make, for instance, creative projects together with our certain partners. and see how it will work. We can use Erasmus ICM, these 5 working days, just to brainstorm, for instance, for conservatoire, chamber music, piano music, composition, in these specialties, how we can make it interesting for both sides, let's say from Georgian side and from Nordic side, certain institution, and then try to understand whether we are going, how we can also fit into already designed projects that they are going to apply in future. So this is all possibilities that we can be part of. All possibilities.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to kind of see if I'm correct in assuming this is that this is also a process that is, if it's really going to work, then it needs to be set free very much to the people involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, be it students or teaching staff or management level, and the interaction between those levels is crucial here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
for instance, that was case with Norwegians.
Yeah.
When we just met for acquainting each other with the institutions, we did not have any certain idea before. We just said that we want to cooperate, and then we identified the fields where we want to cooperate. And then we started to elaborate a project on that. And that was based on our needs and also on the capacity of Norwegian side, where they were able to meet our needs.
Yeah.
And that is the process also, I think, with other partners.
For sure. And that kind of on a closing note from this, before we invite our panel into this, and this is just completely on me and a personal reflection. It's not something that I can back with a report yet, but of course, this sparks reflection about we've been through challenging times these last year. We're still in very challenging times, some of us more than others, but and sometimes this can lead to everyone starting to look inward instead of outward. And that, of course, in terms of what we're talking about here, the whole thing gained with collaborating, with looking to each other, with taking the time to go to the places where you don't know the result before you go, or where you probably in the beginning may not know the concrete goal. Is that challenged now, do you think?
I don't think so, Camilla, because I am a part of the world where we have always had this unstable situation. So we are used to, and we are used to solve this not internally looking inward, but trying to seek solution outside. And this is going through and lies through education, building very strong ties, using this mobility for benefit of the individual and institution, and that's what matters. That's why for me, if challenges are rising up, you have to rise up the cooperation, you have to rise up and strengthen the ties. That's the reply to these challenges, because otherwise we will be closed in our problems regionally, or I don't know, and that will lead nowhere. That's why I'm saying that even if North and South are still very long distance, the main thing is that this cooperation is not only about cooperation, but this is all about values. And if values are the same, then there are no obstacles that we cannot overcome.
That is thank you very much for that message. And of course, that also makes me think, which is also why I'm asking this question here, we might actually be, there might be something for us to think about in the Nordic countries, because we don't have the experience in the same way. And we need maybe to remember what you just said in the...
But sorry, I will add also through this that this is also part of responsibility.
I agree.
This is part of artistic responsibility and teacher responsibility. And if you have expertise to transport that expertise, let's say from north to south, we have to find place where we can meet on a very deeper level. And that's very important. And if there is a will, then the possibilities will come out.
That's very true. I think this is a perfect moment to invite the rest of our panel in. Let me just find them here. Yes, and we have with us today Luca and Sofia.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the talk. Very inspiring.
Lovely to hear. I'm going to start by just asking you to briefly introduce yourselves. I think you can do that better than I can. So, Luca, would you be willing to start?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Luca. I did my bachelor's in the Tbilisi State Conservatoire. I'm a jazz piano player. I did my final year of bachelor studies in the Royal Academy of Aalborg, and I am on my master's studies at this time. Yeah, that's pretty much a good introduction to me.
Lovely, thank you so much. And Sofia?
I'm Sofia Sharikadze, also from Georgia. I did my bachelor in classical composition at the Royal in Tbilisi State Conservatoire, and I had my Erasmus in Hungary there, and then I had my master's Erasmus in the Royal Academy of Music Aarhus, and then I stayed as a full-time student and finished, and currently I'm teacher at the Royal Academy of Music Aarhus and Aalborg, mainly in Overgaard.
Thank you so much. And we should have had Keld Hosbond with us here today as well, acting principal of the Royal Academy of Music in Aarhus Aalborg, but Keld has been held up, so I'm very happy to have you here, and we will continue the discussion together. So I think this is a good point to, with everything that Nana has just shared with us, to move to the more individual level. So I will ask you, Luca and Sofia, this trying out new learning communities, so to say, being part of new learning communities, what has that meant to you personally and professionally, of course? How does it affect your professional profile, but also your personal experience? Any of you can start.
Will you, Luca, start, or should I?
Go ahead.
Oh, I think, like, first, when I'm thinking about like being exchange student, is not only like just from like where am I going, but also like just I'm going outside of my comfort zone, like where I have been for a few years. So it's already a huge benefit when you just change, especially as a composer, the environment that you have. And then I think like I have been like lucky that I can compare what did I get in Hungary and what did I get in Denmark with that, and it changes a lot in your personal perception as well, how you work. But I think it also gives you at least in Denmark, you felt that I can also give something to this country. I can also contribute as a person when I'm going into this institution, as well as learn a lot from them, and then try to find a different kind of values as a professional, but also as a person there. So yeah, I think and my life generally like changed completely, because now I'm ending up in Denmark teaching and bringing students and trying to collaborate with Georgia as a Danish side and not as a Georgian side.
Which we are very happy about, I can say. Luca, how about you?
Well, I'll merely be echoing the statements that Sofia made and Nana made. It is an invaluable experience to have an exchange in a country that's is not related to you, especially as an improvising musician, as a jazz musician, since every city has a way to play, and every city has a way to understand the material, for instance, in jazz that is available. So coming here under the guidance of the teachers that you have here, and under the companionship of the students or the musicians that are working in town, I would have to say that it's been a great amount of wealth to me, because having played in Tbilisi exclusively all the time, that is a specific kind of way of approaching the material and approaching an understanding, and which has been very good and very beneficial. I also had a very nice teacher back home, but it is very important for a student to understand what it is that a specific a place gives you. And then, of course, it's not only an aesthetic thing that you gain, but also entrepreneurial understanding and a network for furthering your career and the horizons that your projects may reach.
And can I ask both of you to, and I know maybe this is difficult, maybe it isn't, I'm not sure, but can you come up with a kind of a concrete example of, for instance, when you say horizon, Luca, how does that look? Can you bring yourself back to a situation where you think, oh, this is what I mean by this? Or do you get my question? It's a bit fluffy, I know, but
yeah. Oh. Yeah, I would say it's all in the differences in mentality, I think, in the approach to what the subject is. Especially dealing with the traditional line of my own occupation, which is jazz, which is an American thing. There is a need for every individual to figure out how they relate to this music, for instance. And Tbilisi has a certain way of doing it. Aalborg has a certain way of doing it, and Aarhus and Copenhagen, and etc. So by broadening horizons, I mostly mean a mentality change, as well as acquiring new sounds, acquiring vocabulary in terms of playing. Yeah.
Sure. And Nana, if I can ask you, how does that, then mark on the institutional level? When you have people coming in and out, these experiences, how do they show either when you go out or when you come back? If you come back or if you go out, of course.
That's a very important topic, because we used those students who came back to Tbilisi to involve them in the working groups, aiming, revising the curriculum. That was very important, because they were sharing the information that they were placed inside of, how they've been taught, what possibilities were the study learning environment giving to them, and we were trying to make it within the working groups. We were getting their feedback, and I can't say that we were able to adapt everything, but we really tried our best to bring it closer to the experience that they've got. And we had these working groups in every specialty, and actually we used the whole pandemic period for this type of work, and that was very difficult, of course.
Thank you. We actually have a question from the audience, which fits perfectly into this. What is your perception, and this applies to all of you, of course, of the biggest cultural differences, especially when it comes to teaching? And yeah, I'm just going to leave that question open to any one of you who would like to try to answer that.
That's a very good question.
It is.
Go ahead, Sophie.
Yeah, you can go.
No, go ahead. I need a minute.
Yeah, I think it's like really important generally also the person to realize like, okay, there's a huge difference in terms of actual teaching that I'm experiencing a lot right now because I'm coming from Georgia, like, and then when you're in your hometown, you're coming with your like package of all these traditions and attitudes and all the stuff that you have, and then when you're going to another country, you just like lose everything and then like start building up everything from the beginning, and then changing some kind of values or attitudes. And I think I would say like Georgia and Denmark in this case are like really, really, really far away. Like maybe if I would end up in the South countries, I would have a bit different experience, but it's completely different approach, which has been like really nice to adapt and then also maybe share later in Georgia as well, or also maybe bring something from Georgia and Denmark. And me and Camilla, we have been like talking a lot about that what Nana also mentions, like we have been challenged constantly. So maybe like being in the critical period, and we have had also in Denmark a lot, I have been probably more like quicker to like find the solution because I'm just like trained to work with problems every second than like maybe Danish culture. But then also how to react and think about emotional approach or like attitudes. Like I've learned a lot from Denmark, and then when you are open to learn and share, and I think Denmark is a good example in that they are open to give you an advice. And luckily, I think me and Luca, we also have been like quite open to absorb some stuff. Then it's easy to collaborate and share advice, and then be a part of this culture as well, and then be you as well. So I don't think that's what I think that it's nice to keep yourself, even though that you are going somewhere else, to respect what you've had and what you brought, and then also adapt in a better way.
I do have a little bit of a different experience, I think, and may be based on the subject that I study. The culture of teaching for me wasn't very different, except for sometimes I've had to ask, and you mentioned this, sometimes I did have to ask that, you can be tough with me. I can take criticism. Please be pressuring. That's all right. Because there is an attitude of a teacher not having their own way and pushing it on you per se, but asking you what you would want to learn from them. And sometimes as a beginner, well, a bachelor is basically an intermediate level artist or something. When you're at that level, you don't know what you want to learn or what you have to learn. So sometimes back home, it is an approach where a teacher has a way and they know, and you choose a teacher based on you trusting them that they will get you somewhere. So except for that little cultural difference, the approach was the same after my request. And in terms of a cultural difference in the students, I mean, we had in I don't know if I mentioned it. I'm in Aalborg. I'm in the Aalborg branch of the academy, and we do have a very closely knit international group to a point where it took me a while to realize that there is a group of students that are Danish students, and there is a group of students that are international students, because everybody speaks English all the time. and there is no, it's not easy to feel this difference. All the while, yeah, there is a Danish way of doing stuff, and it is important to understand what it is, because if you understand it, then you can gain from it, and yeah, enrich your understanding. I hope that was an answer of a sort.
I would add from institutional perspective, since Tbilisi State Conservatoire, I mean, having this Eastern European approach to teaching, where the teacher is guru and students, they don't have enough space for independent, let's say, learning. So we are trying to somehow balance teaching and learning because the main emphasis through decades in Tbilisi was done to the teaching process, from teacher to student. And now it's very important also to have something in the curriculum or some way during our study process where student is independent, more or less. And somehow we are trying to make it now through studio classes for the last 2 years. But still, this is the job that we have to carry on.
For sure. We are running into the last 10 minutes of our session. I'm muting myself because, as you can probably hear, I have a very engaging bell behind me that wants to be part of the session. So I want to ask, do we have any questions from the audience? Is there one of you who would like to either speak up and ask a question yourself or write it in the chat? Then you're
I
very
think there is.
Do I have one already, apart from the one?
Yeah, there is one. There's for mine now.
Oh, great. I will find it here. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Luca. So the question is there something specific you wish you knew before going on exchange, or something you would want to share with TSC students? I think I have to get that one explained, actually, considering exchange. So TSC students, just to clear up, what is that?
Tbilisi State Conservatoire.
Aha, acronyms.
Yeah.
Good. This is an example of there are things that you need to have explained. So this is the question for you. Is there something specific you wish you knew before going on exchange, or something you would want to share considering?
I can start with that.
Thank you.
We do have a student, another student that's a Georgian in our branch. And I did have an experience of, I was here a year before he came. So I did have an experience of talking to him and preparing him for something, I guess. Well, the thing is, the main catch from all of this is something you cannot really explain, because it is an experiential thing. You have to come here and find out what it is. Of course, we could talk about it and put words to it, but it is the international experience is enriching in a way that cannot really be communicated. You have to go through it yourself. Although my approach to Malka, for instance, who is the student, or to anybody else, would be to have a mentality of being open to learning about new things, and being open to understand how they do it here, for instance. And of course, you carry information with you that is not only that you take, you also give, and it enriches the atmosphere that you're in. That is a thing, of course. But the most benefit for me, the mentality that most benefited me was one that was trying to grasp as much as I can, and trying to let go of my own judgment sometimes of how things should be and how things should go, in terms of education, of course. And try things out, even though, like, there is, for instance, there is the Storheim system that you have in Denmark. I mean, that's just I really tried hard. I can't do it because Storheim is the way we learn notes. I don't know if we can talk about that, but we don't have. But similarly, there were other things that were done differently here, and I have gained a lot by having this kind of mentality. Other than that, it's just preparation for, okay, just try to soak everything in, try to figure it out, and try to take as much back home or wherever as you can.
No, the same. I totally agree. Like, be open is the most important, and also maybe from the Georgian side, like, feel that you are also really valuable part of this. So what we have, like, maybe the same problem with like being part of Europe is also like, if you don't feel that you are equal and you deserve that, then you're always going to be behind because you think they are in front of you. But if you're going to feel like, yeah, I learn a lot, and I also can put something inside, and I also can create something, and I'm valuable, then it's also natural, then it's also comfortable, and then you really learn something. I guess. But yeah, that's sometimes the mistake from other Georgian students who are going as an exchange, that like they are not open, they are expecting the teacher gonna sit and then say always just like, you should go this way. Like, be curious, be open, and yeah, feel valued.
Very good points. Thank you so much. Before preparing this session, I was looking a bit into if there were someone who put some words to what do you gain from doing a student exchange, and I just wanted to mention briefly what some of the keywords that I found were, and then you're welcome to react to them, see if you recognize this or if it's completely off. One of them is that you develop very strong transferable skills. So the idea that what you're able to do can be done in different contexts and you're able to adapt to that. Another one is critical thinking. Who am I? What am I part of? Why is that like it is? Why am I like I am? What do I want to challenge? As you say, Luca, I really tried hard with this. Some things you get to do differently afterwards. Sometimes you learn that you stick to what you came with, and that's great. Then it's communication and international thinking. You talked actually quite a lot about that, Nana. I think being part of a bigger world. When do you look out? When do you look in? And where do you solve problems also? And then thinking in different cultural fields, and maybe also seeing what those are. Do you recognize this? Or is it too fluffy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, like 100%. I think it's this is like that.
Yeah,
you should be like international and open, and it's like, I think Denmark is a good example in that way as well. So it's not like you're not going only in Denmark, you're going with a lot of international students here as well, who also adapt and also bring some character inside this field. And then maybe like our profession is also not like connected to one country anyway. It's just like one language that we need to. So Denmark didn't give me only like Denmark, it gave me like also Rima mentioned that I was like texting to her right now that like I have been in Vilnius as well, and then I'm building something with like other Nordic countries, and now I created this our sound association that also aims to connect all the Nordic and Baltic countries and the Ukraine and Georgia with some activities. So it's yeah, you should open your mind in many directions.
Yeah, I would like the critical thinking point, the second point you made. That is very interesting, because when you've been in your country only for all your life, it is very hard to be self-reflective over yourself and over your artistic approach to things. But once you have an experience of living in another place that is different from you, you not only gain the things offered in that place, but you also have a space to reflect upon your own context and your own environment of origin. And that is beneficial for, we mentioned transferable skills. It is very beneficial to understand where you're coming from, and to understand the limitations of where you're coming from and the advantages of it, and to bring that back somehow, and and that help you change the environment. Not change, but develop the environment. Because it's interesting. I didn't anticipate this happening, but after having a bit of space away from my own place, like my own home city, I was able to see things that I wouldn't have been able to see. Both the disadvantages and the advantages of it, and the uniqueness of it. What it means to be from Tbilisi, for instance. Yeah. And when you share your experience from your life to people that have a different background, sometimes it may be jarring for some people, that it's like, oh, I haven't experienced that. And of course, you hear stories that you haven't experienced, which are just as important for you to hear. Yeah.
I think that's a very, very beautiful place to end, actually.
Just two words.
Yes, of course,
Luca
Nana.
was now saying this all. I was just thinking that, can you imagine that this critical amount of people, even if they don't obtain all those features that you listed, but part of them, this critical amount of people will be able to benefit to the society, because what we are doing, it's not only about playing or performing, but to make change into the society, and that's what matters, and that's why we're talking a lot about it. Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much to all of you for being here, and of course, thank you especially to you in the panel, and to you, Nana, for our first talk.